Hey everybody, and welcome to another Final Fantasy VI painting session. I'm going to be doing Cyan. I already started him, but I'm going to try and finish up his armor, or at least get it to a pretty good place. We'll see how far I can get. Again, just like the painting shadow video, I'll probably be a little bit, zoned out working on this, but I'll try and communicate as much as I can. All right. Let me make sure I'm painting on the right layer. Okay. So basically all I'm doing with Cyan is going in and giving his armor some dimension. I just want it to read as like a three-dimensional volume here. Let's see. I wanted to kind of render his armor sort of watercolor-ish. So that's why it looks a little bit like washy. Hopefully that reads and that's how it comes across. Because I like what Amano did, but I want to make sure that I use his sprite colors as well. The colors that were used for the character when you're actually playing Final Fantasy VI. So I'm trying to do a mashup between the two. It's kind of what I tried to do with all the characters, so that's why it's blue and not all different colors. Like, I really like Amano's work. I love his character concepts. But I want the characters themselves to be instantly recognizable for people who maybe haven't seen Amano's art or just aren't big fans of concept art in general, so they don't ever check that out. So that's kind of what I'm going for, is just a universal recognition. So if you're into Amano, it still comes across as true to his work. But if you're just into the games, you can tell who each character is. I also didn't want to do a perfectly rendered, like stainless steel looking kind of armor. I like the textured look I got here. Kind of just feels a bit more like if you've ever been to a museum and looked at like old armor from generals and things, and you can see how detailed it all is. I kind of want to give the implication of a ton of detail in the armor. Also that it's weathered and it's been worn for a while. You might be able to hear my headphone. I got one headphone in and I'm listening to the Final Fantasy IX battle music on repeat. I actually listen to songs on repeat just so that I don't have to think about changing the song. It keeps me a bit more focused. Eventually I just drown out whatever I'm listening to anyway. So a lot of this is just a very repetitive kind of thing. I'm just making sure that the texture is consistent throughout the armor to differentiate between the kind of leather that he has underneath it, and then obviously his skin and everything else. I want to make sure that it has its own feel. Pretty excited to finish this one. I feel good about it. I'm trying to get that kind of old school look of old painted video game drawings and things from Super Nintendo era and original PlayStation. I want this to kind of feel like it could have existed back then. And I know I keep saying this, and I'll keep saying it over and over, but thank you all so much for making this something that I can actually do. It's so crazy to be getting compensated financially for something like this. I'll never get paid from a job to do exactly what I want to do. That rarely ever happens. I can't think of a single job where I've really got to do 100% what I want. It's because that doesn't really exist. I mean, maybe it exists for some people. I bet eventually for someone like Frazetta, people just hired him and they were like, do whatever you want. We don't know. But for me, it's great to have this platform. I have so many ideas for things that I want to do. Not just fan art. I want to make sure that I do my own original paintings. I have one in mind that I think is going to be really cool, but I don't want to talk about it because then I'll end up getting kind of tired of thinking about it. And it'll feel like an old idea by the time I start it and potentially won't be as excited to do it. That happens to me sometimes. Or if I put a thought out there too often, it kind of loses all the excitement for me. And I said this before a few times in the past about how one of the reasons I like never say kind of what I'm going to do next as far as like a project or anything goes is because it's the same kind of a mentality I have about when people say they're going to diet, where if you tell somebody that you have this big grand plan for what you're going to do dieting, then sometimes what happens is just you telling the person that you're going to do something great or whatever, it feels like because of how they respond that you already did it. You get the good, positive, warm feeling of having actually done something without having done anything. So I don't like to put ideas out there really until I have something that I've started. And I can show, what I'm thinking anyway. There's a lot of times you might have a really clear idea of what you want to do anyway, and you could tell somebody and they could say, oh, that's stupid. But then if you just never told them you were going to do that and then just showed them the piece, they might go, oh, that's really cool, because they probably don't see what you see in your head when you tell them about it. That's happened to me a lot. That happened to me with my wife a few times where, I mean, she doesn't say that's stupid, but she'll be like, don't tell me about it, just show me it, because I'm sure it's a lot better than what you're describing. I have a bunch of projects, things that I want to get done through this Patreon. It's just so great that it's grown the way that it has. I mean, kind of the whole point of doing a lot of like the fan art stuff is so that I can, bring people in who aren't necessarily familiar with my work. And then if they like that, then maybe they'll like what I do for myself as well. That's what I've done for jobs and kind of everything else in my career. You kind of, it's the same way that you make friends. You show somebody that you have common ground. We both like this thing. And then when I show you the fan art thing I'm doing of it, you can agree or like disagree that that's close to what you always thought it was. And then from there, we have this kind of mutual thing together where we both know our sensibilities. So then hopefully that means that you'll like other stuff that I do because we're similar enough that, what I'm doing appeals in some way. At least that's the hope. But I try to do that with work too. You start in a style, doing some kind of fan arty thing, and then somebody who's going to hire you sees that and they go, "Oh, I always liked that thing," and you either did or you didn't do it justice, whatever. But if you did do it justice in their eyes, then they'll say, "This person gets what I'm thinking for whatever I'm doing too." So then you get hired on for whatever, and that's happened to me a lot. It's so strange that people tell you not to do exactly what I'm doing right now. I don't think there's anything wrong with, getting this stuff out there. I'm kind of the mind that if you think of something that you want to do, even if it's fan art, and you like, a lot of times you'll think like, oh, I can't wait till hopefully somebody will hire me for that thing eventually. But I never think that that's going to happen because it never does really. So I always try and just do it, whatever it is. I mean, even what you're seeing now, it's not like for where I am right now in my work and all that, this isn't a huge investment of time for me. I'm still doing a ton of different stuff. I have, multiple jobs that I'm doing. I'm obviously trying to do this and the Patreon content, and then also doing story things for the future as far as IPs go. And then I have my family and all that. So I try to have a balance between everything. So this isn't the only thing I'm doing right now. And even still, it's not taking me forever. That's mostly because of Clip Studio. This whole process makes it super fast for me. I mean, what I'm doing with this, if you can't quite follow, is I do basically like a drawing, like you can see in Terra right here. Sorry, I had to burp. I do kind of like a wash drawing, so it's not exactly a drawing. It's more how I draw if I were using a brush traditionally. So I would use like a brush with a light tone on it. Let's say like a brown tone, and then I will just paint in the lines over initial sketch. And then from there, I use that line layer. I set it to multiply. And in Photoshop, I start dropping in colors. And you can kind of see it if I zoom in. Let me zoom in real close. So you can see where there's like a texture-y brush. That's just a brush in Photoshop, and then a bunch of adjustment layers to adjust color and things on top of it till I get close to what I have in mind. And then I come back into Clip once all that's done. Once this, because if you look at like this highlight here, like it's super loose in this here, like Photoshop just, like that's my results with Photoshop. Like I never have really nice, clean brush strokes that work. I feel like I'm always kind of battling it and refining. But Clip Studio's brushes are so accurate and they feel like traditional brushes to me that I can confidently make the marks I want to make, and it doesn't feel like I'm sacrificing anything by going digital. Because what you're seeing right now is like a sped up version of what I would do if I were just traditionally using watercolor, which is the dream, you know, at least for me. That's like what I always wanted. I just wanted to have how it felt for me doing watercolor digitally. And that's pretty much exactly what this feels like to me, except much faster. So it's really nice. But yeah, it doesn't take me too long, so I'm able to kind of do a few different jobs at once and try and deliver everything to the best of my ability. I'd open up Photoshop to show you my texturing process right now, but I actually have some client work open in Photoshop, so if I pull that up, I'm going to violate some NDAs, and I can't do that. As you can see, I have a few windows open. I have the initial Amano concept art of Cyan, and then I have the little portraits that they did in Final Fantasy VI in the menu. And then on my other monitor, I have the sprites lined up, and then obviously a picture of Sam Elliott, because I feel like he's super close to what Cyan is. Not exactly, but he's close. It's a nice reference to kind of just look at. I don't even really reference somebody one for one, really, ever. It's more I'm trying to reference like I don't know, like a feeling of a person. So I'll open up a picture like that just to kind of remember what a person looks like. just to make sure I don't make any really obvious dumb mistakes with like lighting, cheekbones and things. But I don't follow it as like a one for one kind of thing. I hardly ever do that. The kind of gold gilding thing I have going on right now is a little funny. Let's see what I have on shadow. Let me turn my opacity up. I feel like I'm not making definitive marks very well. It could be my brush is stuck. Hold on, let me fix that. And I mean brush by stylus. I usually just pop the nib out, which it's not coming out, so I have to bite it out. My goodness, now that's not coming out. I might need to put a new one in. I ran out of like plastic nibs, so I'm using the gray fabric ones. Dang, I cannot get this shit out. I'm gonna need to wait a second, I guess. Because that's just not coming out at all. Usually you can use like the little tool thing that the tablet comes with. It's like this little thing where you stick the nib in a hole and then you twist and turn and it's supposed to pop out. That shit don't work. Well, I guess I'm stuck using it for now. I hope Wacom comes out with a new iteration of the Pro series Cintiqs because mine is having all kinds of problems. It's so annoying. I paid so much money for this dumb thing, for the screen to get messed up and everything else. I just haven't gone and bought another one to replace it and then sent this one in for repairs yet because I just don't have it in me. I don't have the strength to spend that much money on a piece of hardware that I already have. But it's getting so annoying to see like all of these little white dots on my screen. I mean, not white dots, red dots. It's just so annoying. So every time, like, you can't tell from the monitor, but every time I'm in like a dark area, it's just lit up by all these red and green and just multicolored spots, and it's so hard to see in that area. So then I end up having to work on like a weird part of the monitor where I'm not too comfortable. And the monitor, I mean the Cintiq itself costs like 3,500, 33, I forget. It's a lot. And it's just way too much money for something that's going to break after using for a year. And I saw a comment from somebody saying that a lot of people have a problem with that, and it's like a known issue with these Cintiqs. Eventually I'll get one. And then I'll sell this one as a refurbished one when they send it back to me fixed, I guess. Or just keep it for when the new one breaks. I don't know. I thought it had something to do with me pushing too hard on the screen, but turns out it's just a normal thing that happens with them. Yeah, I'm definitely not getting the full pressure sensitivity right now. I can tell from how the brush strokes are coming out. That doesn't mean it's broken, but something happens where you have to reset the pen because the nib kind of gets stuck and the pressure sensitivity stops being as accurate. So that's what I was trying to do, pull the thing out and fix it, but maybe I still will. I might go out and grab pliers for a second. Give me 1 second. 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back. And I fixed it. All right, good. You have to blow into it and then shake it. So stupid. Stupid pen. And I gotta grab another one of my nibs from my collection to put in the tip of the pen so that I can draw again. All right. All right, I'm back. Let's put my headphone back in and get back into painting this. Yeah. It was definitely messed up. Okay. Now I'm just gonna get rid of all that. Make sure it's totally fixed. Yeah. Okay. You can always tell when you're not getting the full range of like the pressure sensitivity from the pen. So I hope you're all doing well. We're doing pretty good over here. My wife's working in the ICU at the hospital. She's a critical care nurse, so she's been dealing with all that COVID stuff. And it's pretty rough, but she's doing okay. But it means that her schedule got all crazy because so many changes at the hospital. So we've had a whole different setup now, our week-to-week thing, and because nobody can come over, we can't have help from parents and things. So it's hard to get any kind of childcare, obviously, because of the social distancing. So we just kind of been hanging out, trying to get work done, but also obviously take care of our kid. That's why my posts haven't been super regular. And trying to get a good balance. Trying to figure out how exactly I want to do the little plumes, the gold designs on his armor. I think I'm going to borrow more from Amano's thing, his concept. I can tell looking at his stuff that he's going for a Baroque design, specifically in the armor up here. So I'm trying to add my own thing of that. I gotta turn my opacity up again. Should borrow some of Shadow's highlights. I think that feels a little better. Right. Yeah, I feel like something like that makes a lot more sense to me. The only way I'm even able to do little tiny details is because this canvas is so humongous. It's you can see up here, it's 10,402 by 15,000 pixels at 500 dpi. So it's pretty big. But the whole point of this is to give you all prints that you can use and do on your own kind of thing. So I want to give the most resolution possible for all that. Make sure that it prints extra crisp and looks good. That's why they're so big. And if I'm not careful when I'm talking, I can kind of lose sight of what I was going for initially. So I'm trying to get back into what my first thoughts were as far as his armor goes. Which I feel like I'm much closer to now. I'm waiting to do little tiny etching kind of details that are going to make it look more real, which I can show you what that would be real quick. I just take like a dark color, like real dark, follow the edge of the crest of the armor there, and then you kind of go back over it with a highlight and do like little nicks here and there. Do little details like that, and then it starts to feel more like three-dimensional. But that's usually the last thing you do. I'm not a huge fan of how random I made the armor look up there. So I wanted to kind of give it more of a purposeful look instead of it looking all bulbous. I had people ask, a lot of people are asking about why I didn't include Kefka in this. I mean, it's mostly just a hero piece in general. So I didn't want to make it super busy and add even more to it. And, you know, like I said in the last video, they're supposed to be shaped like the crystal, so the whole theme is around that, and you know, all the characters kind of coming together. I'll probably hint at Kefka in other parts of the background, but it'll be not like a full-on character, just some designs. Hopefully it gets across enough that he doesn't feel so excluded from the piece. I'm really glad I fixed my pen. It's so much easier to paint right now. I think I just have a problem where I press too hard onto the screen or something. I'm not sure why it gets stuck. I'm always paranoid in one of these videos that I'll leave a piece of client work up or something and end up violating an NDA and getting in a shitload of trouble. It's so funny seeing people be worked up about the quarantine, like not being able to go anywhere or do anything. And I'm just sitting here living the same exact life I've lived for years. Nothing has changed. I just can't occasionally go get coffee with my wife somewhere. But everything else is almost exactly the same. Just home, working. Obviously super grateful that we're all healthy. But yeah, not a whole lot different. Played my first video game in like, I don't even know how long. Maybe a year or more than a year. Played Luigi's Mansion 3. It's pretty good. I like all the design stuff in it. It's really cool. A lot of the like Great Gatsby kind of Art Deco look of it all. It's so funny that all I've really done is painted this armor the whole time. I don't really think of how long this stuff takes until I'm recording a video. And then I'm like, oh shit, I've only been doing that. How long does this usually take me? I think it's mostly just because I really like getting bogged down in little details. I'm not sure if that's a positive thing. I get so lost in detail though. That's one of the things that I have to kind of stop myself from doing too much of, because then I'll never finish a piece. especially like a piece that doesn't have a deadline like this one, where I could technically just work on it and work on it. But I'm trying to just hit kind of a universal level of finished looking between all the characters and stop there so that I don't spend weeks and weeks and weeks on this one. Because it'll be such a subtle change anyway, doing all the little details. Like it'll look more like crisp and whatever, but as far as impact of the image itself goes, it's not going to change it so much. I think as long as the big forms work and it has the read I'm looking for and the values are there and they all work, then all that stuff's just kind of fluff. But yeah, with all the craziness that's going on, I'm trying to play catch up with all my clients. It's not so bad though. I don't know if I added much there. I feel like I fucked it up. Okay. Trying to focus on each individual character so that I get them to that finished state quick and then move on to the next one. Because if I did each one as I went, it would feel like it was taking forever, even if it wasn't. It's nice to just finish one, jump to the next, finish one, jump to the next. The reason I'm doing a lot of the same kind of shape over and over is I want to keep a universal design idea throughout the armor so that it feels consistent and complete. You don't want any one bit to feel too random. As then the armor can start to feel cluttered. Yeah, that reads okay. I was also going to put little flowers on his armor, like some of his designs in Amanos. We'll see. That might look too busy. I'm not sure. If I can make him subtle enough, maybe. Because his armor already looks pretty crazy once I've gone in and done all this stuff. Yeah, that looks too weird, huh? It's going to have to not be super symmetrical design. As if this were repeated on this side, then the armor would need to end right over here. There would need to be another one of these. And there isn't, so that would look too strange if I made it symmetrical. Or at least symmetrical without actually being symmetrical. I just got done before this doing inks for a client, which was really cool. It's been a little while since I've done that. So I was just trying to get like some concept work done for a video game, and got to do some like pen and ink work. It's kind of cool. I like having a break from painting. I've been painting a lot lately, so it's nice to try something different. I thought about doing it for Patreon, and then I was like, just finish one thing at a time. So I'd rather spend my time doing this. Make sure I can get this done in a relatively short turnaround. But yeah, I'm thinking of doing the conventions when those come back around. Been thinking about it a little bit more. Probably gonna hopefully do them next year. Kind of try and hit up all the big ones. That'll be nice. I just haven't had any prints to sell in a long time. Nothing that I was very proud of anyway. By the time we're into next year, I should have a bunch of stuff done through this Patreon, which will be great, as I'll have a whole new portfolio and then a bunch of new stuff to get printed and be able to sell to everybody else who isn't a patron and doesn't already have the high res, or even if you are, you just want the print. That'll be nice. I'll probably offer prints of the personal stuff that I do through the mail, because I can get that stuff printed pretty high quality and then just do little sales of that. Just depends if people are interested, because I would like to do more personal work and get super detailed and crazy with the paintings. I kind of just want to do something along the lines of what like Noriyoshi Orai did, where a lot of his paintings are just, it's just like combinations of seemingly like all the cool things that he likes. So, which is pretty much exactly what I want to do. Like, I don't want to try and be fine arty or anything, because I'm just not that person. But I do want to do big, crazy paintings and just push myself and see if I can get to a new place with my skill wise anyway. It's funny how recording this video I chose to do like one of the more complicated parts of the whole painting. Is just his armor, because there's so much going on in it. It's going to be much easier. I mean, like, this is more difficult just because I didn't already have the armor already designed out on it. Because it's not going to be that difficult to hop over to Setzer and do all of his gold, because most of the ridges and everything are already there. And then same thing with Edgar's stuff. And then once I'm done with those three, I think I'm pretty much done with armor. Besides, let me see, who's all left. Yeah, pretty much. So that'll be nice. Get all the hard stuff done. Yeah, as you can see, kind of like, this is what it was. There's just not a lot of stuff on it. I probably drew him last out of a grouping, I'm guessing, so I kind of ran out of energy. So I was like, I'm probably not going to do all of this design stuff right now. I'm just going to block in some squiggles and then figure it out later. It's a bad move. I shouldn't have done it. Because now I have to do all this work at this stage. As opposed to in the sketch where it would have just been really easy. I'm going to have this kind of match up with another piece that's going to wrap around. What ended up happening is because I didn't really plan this part out, it feels a bit muddy. So I kind of have to get rid of that muddy look and then paint in where the ornate details would be. Had they, initially been drawn. So let this be a lesson to you. Always do your drawings. Make them as accurate as possible. Because the back end, fixing all that, takes a lot longer than drawing it. Once I finish all of this, I'm going to do some passes on top with soft light layers and kind of overlay things to hopefully get it looking a bit more unified in color. Only if it looks good, though. I mean, if that doesn't end up working or looking that good, then I won't do it. But that's usually what I do over my paintings afterwards. Tends to make them look a little bit better. I'm adding blue to some of the shadows and the gold so that it looks like the gold is catching the light from the blue armor, bouncing into the shadow. Okay, this is about to be a super long video, so I'm going to end it here and then I'll do another one later just to show more progress. But yeah, this is where I'm at the moment. Shouldn't be too much longer. I mean, I've already done, essentially, because this is just taking longer than normal, I've done 4 characters, but It shouldn't take much longer because the rest of them are wearing like cloth and leather and things. That's so much easier to paint than all these tiny little details. So, yeah, I'm guessing that it'll take me, I don't know, depending on how my client stuff goes, maybe like another, let's use Murphy's Law where something definitely has to go wrong. And let's say it's going to take 2 weeks max. That's our goal. Who knows? I may or may not hit that, but I'm going to try my best. So far, I was doing a character every day and a half, something like that. So, yeah, that feels about right. 'Cause some characters are super easy, like Umaru, and then Umaro, and then Mog, and then Realm's gonna be pretty difficult. Yeah, it won't be too bad though, because I'm not even really counting Mog and Umaro. I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters really left. Yeah, 2 weeks feels about right. All right. Thank you all for checking this out. Thanks for supporting the Patreon. Thanks for listening to me ramble on and draw tiny ornate armor details for an hour. And I'll hopefully have another one of these out relatively soon. All right. Thanks. Bye.